speaker, Cecilie Hultman. She is Group Sustainability Risk Manager at DNV. She is responsible for coordinating the implementation of the group strategy on sustainability. Cecilie worked in different UN organizations before she joined DNV. And now she'll tell us what's the story DNV is telling customers and stakeholders all around the world. Cecilie.
Thank you. Thank you. So, you've all heard Björn this morning, the story that we tell nowadays. So my presentation without slides is not going to focus on who we are as a company, but I would rather like to tell you the story of what we would like to achieve and the stories that we currently tell in order to achieve what we want. So the big question for this session, why are we not acting knowing what we know about where we are headed? And this is really, the million-dollar question, and the question that has kept me up at night for many years. My background is, as was mentioned, I've been working 7 years at the United Nations before I joined DNV. And basically in the crossroad of UN work and communications awareness raising. I was working for the World Food Programme, raising awareness of hunger disasters, the UN Development Programme, raising awareness about long-term development issues, and for the UN Global Compact, raising awareness in the global business community about the need to incorporate and embed sustainability in business operations. And for me, the personal struggle throughout all of these years has been in light of the seriousness of the issues that we are faced with. And also, as Gunhild said, in light of the overwhelming evidence, the overwhelming scientific evidence about what we are doing and what we are doing wrong. Why is it so hard to get attention? And why is it so hard to get the action needed to change things? And clearly, I think that answers one of the other questions for this session. It's not enough to speak only to the minds. Clearly, we don't operate that way. And this has made me sleepless, it has made me depressed, and it has made me angry. Now, for us in DNV-GL, this topic it fits perfectly with what we have been looking at for the past year. I'm one of the lead authors of this report that Björn presented this morning. And we have really taken the opportunity. DNV-GL turns 150 years this year. But instead of doing as many organizations do, celebrate what we have achieved and sort of pat ourselves on the back, we decided instead that we want to look into the future. And we want to see what we can do to achieve our vision of a safe and sustainable future. And a significant part of what we have done is explore exactly the topic of this discussion. Knowing what we know, why are we not acting? Why are we not doing the right things at the right time and with the right speed? And frankly, I don't think this is about lack of awareness. I think at leadership level in the business community, political community, etc., there is an awareness. But it's really about making the right priorities, choosing the longer-term perspective, longer-term prosperity, as opposed to short-term profit. So what we have looked at is really, so what are these barriers that are stopping us from doing what we need to be doing, even though we know where we are headed? And we have looked at technological barriers, economic barriers, political barriers, which are huge, but also more into what we are discussing now, the cognitive barriers. So why are we short-term thinkers? Why do we value sort of short-term immediate gain as opposed to long-term profit, etc.? So Björn touched upon this. But I want to mention in this regard that as part of this process, and this was really an eye-opener for us, we have worked very closely with 30 leading experts internationally. We've worked closely with Pachauri from the IPCC, Connie Hedegaard from the EU Climate Commissioner, my former boss at the Global Compact, Georg Kell, Jørgen Randers, who's been working on this since he launched Limits to Growth, fantastic book from 1972. And also this, we also mixed a lot of young people into the equation to get their perspectives. So we had this 18-year-old, I don't know if I can call him kid, but 18-year-old young man who at the age of 12 sued the American government on behalf of his generation for failure to act on climate change. So all of these people we brought together for a roundtable in November in Copenhagen. And really what was interesting to see was, you know, the idea was to discuss what is it that we need to be doing, what do we need to stop doing, and what do we need to start doing. And despite so many different perspectives, so many different backgrounds, and so many different ages, what really emerged bottom up from a very open discussion was the need to focus on mindset, and was the need to focus on the way that we are thinking and valuing about things. And the conclusion really centered on the fact that we need to be able to tell the sustainability story in a new way. We need to be able to tell stories that engage, that inspire, that motivates, and that way we can ultimately change behavior of politicians, business leaders, etc. So, as Gunhild and several other of the panelists were mentioned, you know, we need to tell stories about opportunities. We need to tell stories about how the future will look so cool and so tech-savvy if we become more sustainable. And also we need to redefine the concept of heroes in today's society. Who are our heroes, and what do we consider good and bad? Or what are the myths about what is good and bad? And how involving artists, involving designers, etc., communicating stories more towards the heart. So I think this was very interesting for us to realize. We're gathering this group again in June to follow up on the discussion. So now we are panning out the strategy for changing mindsets. And considering back to what we have described in the report, and considering what we are faced with, we are today faced with a complex systemic challenge. And our approach of sort of individual project problem solving has not really worked so far. So I think our conclusion is, if we start working on mindsets and values, that is how we can start approaching systems change. So just the final note, you know, I want to end by emphasizing that I'm no longer depressed. I feel very encouraged and very excited. We're now traveling the world communicating the message from our report, and the amount of inspiration and hope that we see when we travel around is just fantastic. So mindsets are being changed. It's happening all over the world. So I think we have a great future. Okay, thank you.